Hello and welcome to POcast.com. This topic is all about getting started to learn and understand about what is SAP Process Orchestration. Well, this topic is like welcome to SAP PO world. You might be learning this course with previous understanding of PI or XI or with another integration tool background, or this might be your first introduction to SAP integration tool, wherever you are. But I assume that you are a newbie and first time trying to understand SAP Process Orchestration. So I will arrange the topic from very basic theory. If you have taken previous courses like XML, XST, XPath, HTTP, SOA, ESB, Web Service, SOAP, WSTL, EDI, PIP, SAP NetWeaver, and all the other basics that we have been learning through in previous topics, then learning SAP PO is like super easy for you. I'll be referring these keywords with understanding that you know these terms very well. Well, I will start this topic with basics like why there is need for integration tool and how SAP integration tool are used to solve integration challenges. This section will make you familiar with what is SAP PO and its background. In future lessons, we will learn more about architecture than the actual tools. Well, let me give you a quick definition of what is SAP PO. SAP Process Orchestration or PO is a combo product provided by SAP and it's actually a part of NetWeaver family. The primary purpose of this tool is to serve the integration needs, and SAP PO is a product like Microsoft Office, so remember it is a product. Each tool in SAP PO helps to address the specific needs of integration. And when we say SAP PO is a product, it's a combination of three different tools. Like it has process integration, which is termed as PI, and business process management, which is as BPM, and business rules management, which is BRM. So if you're thinking what is SAP PI, then you need to understand that PO is a product, PI is the actual tool, and similarly BPM and BRM is actually a tool that has been available for us to work with. And we will cover everything under SAP PO, but in this section it is just the basics and the introduction. So let me give you the flow of the topic that you're going to learn in this section. First, we'll try to understand why there is actually need for any integration tool. What are the challenges in the integration? Then we'll learn about SAP Process Orchestration. I'll give you some background about previous releases of SAP PO and how it evolved till date. So you will try to understand what it is previously called as. Also, we'll look at components of SAP PO. Finally, we will look at how SAP PO is positioned in the overall integration architecture. I'm really super excited to start the journey of SAP PO with you. So let's get started. Let's first understand what is the need for integration tools and how they are evolved. Imagine a business process of you interested to buy an iPhone. First, you will log in into an, let's say, Apple site and place the order. Apple will receive the order and then it will place the parts order from its supplier to make that iPhone for you. Then once the parts are arrived, Apple company will build the phone. Finally, when the phone is ready, it is shipped to you. Well, I have explained the whole process in simple words, but actually it's much more complex than we defined. But let's observe the business process and the systems involved. Well, ERP application can be used to store the order. Shop floor and production floor might use a custom software to run the production line. The logistics system will make sure the delivery is done. Well, if you remember the topic that we discussed on EDI and PIP, those were the data standards that can be used to exchange the business communication between the trading partners. Like Apple might be using EDI or PIP to exchange the communication between its supplier. So just to build one iPhone, there might be many data exchanges to happen between the systems. So the need of integration is really important to make sure that business transactions are exchanged between one system to another and just to complete one business process end to end. Also, each system might needs a different type of data type or a different connectivity to exchange the message. So the job of conversion of data, connecting to systems and routing of messages is typically handled by the integration tool. Let me now give you another view from an SOA point of view. Companies that follows SOA based architecture where all their business process are split into services. Now just to complete one business process, all the services need to talk to each other, right? And without the integration tool, all the services will start integrating with each other, and thus it will complicate the entire landscape and will be difficult to sustain obviously in a longer run, right? This does not mean SOA is a wrong concept, so should not be implemented. Don't have that assumption, okay? But understand that SOA does not speak about integration. It just say that when a company business process is split into loosely coupled services, then we say it's a IT architecture built on SOA or service oriented architecture or service based architecture. Well, with the enterprise service bus or ESB, we can solve the integration challenges and simplify the integration architecture. Enterprise service bus or ESB helps to integrate all services and provide an integration platform to communicate. In the previous diagram, all we need to solve the complexity was a single point of integration that actually can remove the dependency from each of the service to connect and to reuse. It's like asking all the services to come to ESB, and then ESB will decide what to do next with that request. This helps the company because now they can understand what is happening in the real time and how business process are exchanging the messages. ESB is like single point of integration, and it removes the point-to-point connection between the services. It's like acting like a mediator between two services to talk to each other. So by now you know ESB helps to integrate all the services together. We have actually discussed this topic previously, and we have also discussed the ESB core principles in previous lessons. I'll just give you a brief summary. ESB architecture has the following principles that we discussed, right? So any tool in the market who says is an ESB tool will follow these principles. And PO is not the only ESB tool. There are many other tools in the market. But for now, let me give you a brief summary of ESB principles. First, let's talk about orchestration. Well, orchestration means the tool should have the ability to connect to the system and exchange the message. Transformation means convert the data from one format to another format. Transportation actually means ability to connect system with different protocol like HTTP, SOAP, FTP, DB, JMS and others. Security means the message should be transferred in secured manner and no one should be able to sniff or hack the message packets. Governance means able to govern the entire business process, like we should have a monitoring tool, restart, stopping capability, logs, audit, maintenance, complete life cycle of the application should be available. The business process management means ability to define business process and connect systems. So service won't talk to each other directly. They should use ESB to talk to each other and execute the business process. Well, these are the principles that integration tool or ESB tools has to follow. Let's look at the entire end-to-end integration diagram with PI and PO. Well, PI or PO is an ESB tool, which means PI or PO supports all the above core principles that we just discussed. So PI or PO has this ability to connect to any system using different connectivity types like FTP, HTTP, SOAP, JDBC and many others. It can convert data from one format to another format like CSV to XML and many others. It can transport data in secure manner using certificates or in encrypted format. It provides the monitoring tools, deployment and entire application lifecycle tools to manage the integration. Also, it has the BPM capability to run the business process. I know you might be confused what is the difference between PI and PO, and I keep saying PI or PO. Well, let's deep dive into what is PI and what is PO and understand where it belongs in the NetWeaver family. You might have seen this SAP NetWeaver diagram previously in the SAP NetWeaver topic. Just to do a recap, SAP NetWeaver is a technology platform that combines many tools and applications together, which actually forms an ecosystem, and it solves challenges around people, process and information. Well, that's what we learned, right? So PI or PO will fall under the process section of the SAP NetWeaver family. PO, as I described previously, stands for process orchestration, and PI stands for process integration. PO is a product and it's a combination of PI, BPM and BRM. That's why PO is called as a combo product, right? And it has many tools in it. And PI is the integration tool or the ESB tool, which actually has collection of many tools inside to build the interface, monitor the interface, and run the interfaces. So when you say you know SAP PO, you actually means you know PI and even the BPM, including the BRM. Well, in terms of deployment of the SAP PO, so when someone say SAP PO runs on NetWeaver, right? SAP PO uses Java only server from the underlying SAP as application server to run, and it can be configured to use many databases like MaxDB, Oracle, and etc. Let's try to understand in detail about SAP PO. So here in this diagram, I'm showing you how the SAP PO is described. I know there is a new word AEX, which stands for Advanced Adapter Engine Extended. AEX is a new term being used instead of PI because of its history. First, SAP integration tool was called as XI, then they renamed it to PI, and after that, SAP started adding new features like Advanced Adapter Engine, which was AAE, and then it improved that AAE to AEX. Now at this stage, PI and AEX is actually the same thing. The major difference between PI and AEX is that PI can be installed on Java plus ABAP, but AEX is only Java only installation. So when someone says AEX box, then it actually means it's a Java only box. So using AEX instead of PI help us to explain things in the right way. We'll always be confused when we refer to PI because we don't know PI as ABAP plus Java or PI as Java only. But with AEX, now we can differentiate PI as Java only. Well, I have a separate section to talk about PI versus PO. That's a complete topic just to talk about what are the internal architecture, how it is being deployed, and why there's a difference between PI versus PO. So for now, let's keep the definition of SAP PO as simple as PI plus BPM plus BRM. Also remember, whenever in the lesson when I say AEX, it is just Java only installation, and SAP PO also completely a Java only installation. Next, let's talk about each of these components and then understand its benefit, like what is AEX and its benefits, what is BPM and its benefits, and then what is BRM. You can now visualize the AEX as the ESB tool, which actually helps to integrate all the application services together. And AEX will have some tools and components in it, and then we'll go through that in the later section. But understand that AEX will help to connect systems and act as an integration tool. Also, AEX does not have the BPM capabilities. It is the BPM component that has the BPM capabilities. Well, let me ask you this. Can you define or explain what is it called as SAP Process Orchestration? Why it is called as orchestration? What is the real meaning behind it? Well, let me try to explain it in a very simple terms. Well, if you really know the answers like why the process orchestration is used for this integration tool, then hit the comment section and share your definition. Well, let me give you a simple definition that you can remember and use it anywhere. Well, I have shared this slide in the previous section during the SOA lesson. Let me do a recap. Orchestra means group of musicians playing different instruments. Orchestration in general English means arranging two or more things together to achieve a desired results. Well, in the context of service, arranging two or more services together to achieve a desired results is called as service orchestration. And in the context of ESB, service orchestration is a process of integrating two or more services together to automate a business process. And now the SAP process orchestration helps to combine all the sub-processes together to fulfill a business process. So PO actually has this AEX as an ESB and BPM to run the business process. Together is called as process orchestration. Simple enough? Let me now go through the history of SAP PO. I'll quickly give you a very high level perspective from where the PI started, so you know the terms that was used previously. Well, I'm not so particular about the dates and the features, it's added. That is a different section to it. But I want to focus on what are the version numbers and what it is called as. just to help you understand the terms that was used previously. The number 1, 2, 3 I'm listing out here. 1 means let's look at the version of PI and AEX. The 2 will talk about version of BPM and BRM, and 3 will talk about the process orchestration version, okay, which actually a combination of AEX with BPM. So first let's look at PI AEX evolution and history. This is the complete history of PI and AEX and its previous releases, and I want to show you the names like XI, PI and AEX, which is now. So you can see the different version numbers and the year and actually the tool name. First it was called as XI, then it is called as PI somewhere around 2005, and then now it is called as AEX. Next is the composite environment. Well, we haven't talked about CE as of now, right? Well, just to understand this new word, composite environment is actually an environment provided by SAP NetWeaver to develop BPM and other stuff. Well, remember that BPM in previous version like XI and PI was called as CC BPM, which were ABAP based and did not use CE at all. It was just a built-in workflow feature of XI and PI, mostly on the ABAP stack. And understand that XI and PI was developed using ABAP and Java. So CC BPM was using ABAP server to run the business process, and it was very integrated inside the PI tool itself. Well, with PO or when the AEX was released, ABAP was completely removed from its internal architecture. So even when ABAP was removed, the CC BPM was also moved from the ABAP stack, and then it was moved to a Java stack BPM which was called as NW BPM. And this NW BPM completely run on this composite environment, which actually runs on Java engine, but composite environment is generally used to develop and deploy the BPMs. That is the reason in context of NW BPM, composite environment was available from 2007. It's just that it was used by PI, which were Java only installation. Also understand that soon SAP will go away from this dual stack to single stack to support many cool features like cloud integration. So it is important for you to get familiar with composite environment rather than CC BPM. Next is the overview of SAP PO evolution and history. You can see the support of CE and PI together. That's why the PI has a capability to deploy on Java only installation. So once the PI has this capability of Java only installation, it didn't have the CC BPM at all. And that's when the CE came in picture and helped and provide this BPM feature to PI. And now with SAP PO, it's the complete Java only installation. That's why it's officially said that PO is a combination of PI plus NW BPM and plus BRM. And then BPM and BRM runs and develop using this composite environment. Now let's look at the duties of all the three components, like what are the benefits and what does it help to do, like AEX, BPM and BRM, just to make sure you completely understand these components. This is the diagram that actually shows the system that are used in the enterprise company. They will have like CRM, portal, DB, HR, finance and many other systems in their landscape. And without the ESB, they make a point-to-point connection and make the integration very, very complex. Well, we understood that AEX can help to integrate all the systems and exchange the messages. AEX plays the role of a middleman, courier and a translator. Now let's look at the duties of AEX. Well, AEX helps to route the messages to desired system, one-to-one, one-to-many or many-to-one. It helps to transform or convert the data from one format to another format. It also provides secure transaction between two systems. It has the ability to talk to provider or consumer in the language of protocol. Well, also the monitoring tools are provided to do an end-to-end monitoring for audit purposes. It also maintains the version of the code and provide easy to develop environment. That's basically the duties of AEX. Let's now understand the BPM. Let's look at how BPM are used. BPM stands for Business Process Management. This is an example of business process used to approve a travel budget. The business process is started when a requester submits a request for travel approval via, let's imagine it's an SAP portal. The SAP portal can send message to AEX, and then AEX can calculate the price. Then based on the amount, if the amount is greater than 5,000, it can send an email to the manager to approve the request. Or if the amount is less than 5,000, it can send a signal back to SAP portal stating that request is auto-approved. The process is completed when approval is sent back to SAP portal. Well, if you observed, the process has steps and each steps has to perform some kind of operation. So you need to organize all these steps in a sequence so that a business process is completed. Well, BPM actually are used to lay out all these steps in a sequence and execute in the same order. And BPM still uses the AEX for connectivity and routing purpose. And BPM are just used to execute the steps in sequence. Let's now look at the benefits of the BPM. Well, BPM supports human-centric and system-centric process, which means BPM can wait and take inputs from human to proceed further, or automatically decide the next course of action in the process. Now with BPM, we can see what happened with the request end-to-end as one process. Well, being AEX and BPM separated means AEX can handle the connectivity and routing, and BPM handling the business process. We can quickly adapt to business changes, right? We can also monitor from when the message received till what response is sent back, including what are the business steps executed in one dashboard. That's basically the end-to-end process monitoring. Let's now look at BRM, which stands for Business Rules Management. BRM are rules, yes, business rules that we can define outside the BPM. So when you have a business rule that can change anytime, those rules we no need to define or hard code inside the BPM. With BRM, we can define these rules and then BPM can use it during the process execution. So if the rules are not matched, then BPM will adapt to the changes accordingly. Like the travel approval request process just we have seen, BPM can have the entire business process, and now the BRM can have only the rules of amount limit that requires manager approval. In the diagram, I have highlighted with yellow box. It is the rule which can be defined in BRM, and it can be changed anytime without doing anything inside the BPM. This is so powerful, right? So when a company decide the manager approval is required for amount less than 2,000 or maybe say greater than 7,000, then it's super easy to adopt these business changes. All we have to do is just to change the BRM, and the BPM will actually accepts it, right? So let's look at the benefits of the BRM. Well, BRM helps to separate the logic and the data, the logic in BPM and the rule in the BRM. It actually provides a central repository for all the business rules, right? It can change by business themselves based on the company's direction. And organizations are enabled to automate the business decisions, which means organization can now make the decisions of changing the business rules by themselves. Well, all the changes that we are doing in the BRM are basically real time and no update to the BPM required or no redeployment of the BPM required. Super cool, right? Hope you have got a fair idea on what is PI, AEX, BPM and BRM and its usages. Let us go through the last topic on the positioning of AEX. You need to understand where PO is positioned in the entire system architecture. Well, there are generally 3 layers in the system architecture diagrams. The top layer is the presentation layer, the middle layer is the PO layer, which is the integration layer, and the third layer is the application layer on which the third party or the backend systems are available and the service are enabled in those systems. Let's understand each of its layer. The presentation layer is nothing but the medium through which the user can communicate, like mobile system or in a browser. It can also be called as an UI layer, also using which the user communicates. And PO is the integration layer, which helps to transfer the data from presentation layer to service enabled applications, which is the backend layer. PO provides the tools using which 2 layers can interact with each other. And PO we have seen has BPM to run business processes, BRM for rules management, and AEX for integration like connectivity and routing. And the services that is being developed in PI or PO can be maintained, discovered and managed in the enterprise service repository. I know we haven't discussed about enterprise service repository, but if you refer to the WSDL section or the lesson, we have talked about UDDI. So enterprise service repository is nothing but the UDDI. And these services can be published, searched and discovered by using what can be seen as an yellow pages for services, the service registry, right? And all the services in the service registry can be exposed via the PI layer. So the presentation layer can call the services in the PI layer, but in turns it depends on the backend system to complete the service, because the actual implementation of the service is in the backend system. PI layer is just an abstract layer service to the backend services. You can think it like a medium to transfer or call the service from the PI layer or from the integration layer. The bottom layer is a service enabled layer in which the services are enabled in the application, which can be used to complete a job. You can imagine as a web service in each of this application, right? The backend application could be an ERP, HR or finance system which offers various services, and these services within the systems like ERP and HR is the actual implementation of the logic. So understanding the positioning of PO in the overall system architecture is very important when you're trying to build an interface, and when you're trying to define even the architecture of the interfaces, you know where we should put what. Or don't be confused with the presentation layer, integration layer and the backend layer. So PO is the integration layer, right? I hope this will give you a solid understanding of where and how the PO is being laid out in the entire system architecture. Well, that's the end of this topic. If you have any questions regarding the topic I've discussed or any clarification on this topic, please feel free to join the discussion in the forum where I can spend time to answer your queries. You can always reach us at support@popcast.com for any kind of questions without hesitation. With that, I end this presentation and thanks for listening to this section of the course. Have a wonderful day. Bye.